please welcome to the stage founder and president of Project Veritas and Project Veritas Action, Mr. James O'Keefe.
Great to be with you. It's such a pleasure to be with you here in North Carolina. Having just been in Washington, D.C., the swamp for a week. A lot to tell you here. I've got about 20 minutes to tell you a lot of stories and talk about truth. And I like that the word light is used here at this event. Truth and light, illumination, that's what we do at Project Veritas. We expose. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that we've exposed, tell you a couple war stories, try to give you some hope, some optimism, because I am an optimist. First, a little bit about our organization. I'm assuming you've all heard of us, Project Veritas. And I have some videos and some slides I'm going to show throughout this talk for the next 15, 20 minutes. We're an organization dedicated to exposing waste, fraud, abuse, corruption, and dishonesty. I will never be out of a job. Never be out of a job. Even walking into this building, many of you have given me some tips in passing. And we have a bunch of journalists going around with these cameras exposing, shining a light on what is happening, because we need that to happen, and really not many journalists are engaged in journalism anymore. So starting out, we went undercover. This is me dressed up as various characters: pimp, drug dealer, agent of the Muslim Brotherhood, going in there to try to expose what people were saying and doing. And we do this with the vision of being the answer to the question, what can I do? Because everyone asked that question, right? What can I do? How can I make a difference in a world where it seems so difficult to make a difference, for people to be held accountable, right? Nothing ever happens to these people. Well, there is something that we can do. We can expose them. So this past week, I was actually in court, which I find myself being in court a lot these days. And I'm going to tell you a very brief story about what happened, because it's fascinating. Project Veritas has many lawyers. What we fight for is the First Amendment. We're not a political organization. We just expose people in their own words. We don't advocate. We don't lobby. We don't tell you what we think. We show you what they're doing. And for this reason, we get attacked viciously. Up until this week, and frankly, for the entire duration of Project Veritas' existence, Project Veritas has never lost a lawsuit. Not once. Including, we have sued the New York Times for defamation, and we're winning in New York. That's a New York State court. So fast forward to this week. This is a sketch artist. This was actually on Wednesday of this week. Right behind me, what you're looking at here are 9 jurors sitting in a federal courtroom. That's my attorney with the red tie, and that's me sitting all the way to the right. They still require masks in federal courtrooms in Washington, D.C. And I'm sitting in this case. Now, what is this case about? I want to tell you briefly about it, because it's really interesting. In 2016, we exposed these Democratic operatives working in and around the Hillary campaign. They were saying horrible things. A group named Democracy Partners, Bob Creamer, his colleague Scott Fovel, Aaron Black, were saying that they agitate at Trump rallies, that they send people in to get beat up, and they don't want anybody to know that this is something that is paid for directly by the Democratic National Committee. In fact, they told us, their words, not mine, there's a double blind that exists. There's a secret way to funnel the money into this group that goes to do all this fomenting at these rallies, and we caught all this on hidden camera. Project Veritas did our jobs. We went in there and we recorded it, and I think I have a clip here, some mainstream media covering this from 2016, and then I'll tell you what happened then.
Of trouble and provoking violence at Trump rallies. The video comes from Project Veritas.
I know nothing about this. I'm not, I can't deal with every one of his conspiracy theories, but I hope you all have something to eat and something to drink on the way back to New York. Thank you.
Some of the things you'll hear on the tape are certainly hard to ignore. Enough we're learning for one person to be fired so far, another to resign. A lot of questions being asked about the recording.
Nobody's really supposed to know about me. So the Chicago protest, when they shut all that, that was us. It was more him than me, but none of this is supposed to come back to us because we want it coming from people. We don't want it to come from the party.
You gotta say, we have mentally ill people that we pay to do shit. Make no mistake. Over the last 20 years, I've paid off a few homeless guys to do some crazy stuff, and I've also taken them for dinner, and I've also made sure they had a hotel.
We were contracted directly with the DNC and the campaign. Both.
Yeah.
I am contracted to him, but I answer to the head of special events for the DNC and the head of the special events and political for the campaign.
The campaign pays DNC, DNC pays Democracy Partners pays the Fogle Group goes and executes the shit on the ground.
In the end, it was the candidate, Hillary Clinton, the future president of the United States, who wanted ducks on the ground. But by God, we will give ducks on the ground.
So it's, wow.
Don't repeat that to anybody.
Don't repeat that to anybody. Said this guy. You heard what they just said. It was horrible. It was unethical, if not illegal. He was saying that it was then candidate Secretary Clinton's idea to do all this, to put ducks on the ground. And then these other guys who worked for that man were saying that they were doing these unethical things. Again, I didn't put words in their mouth. But what happens in our country when you do expose them, well, we got sued. Now, we didn't get sued for defamation. That is to say, they didn't sue us because we were lying about what you just saw. They didn't sue us under some theory of false light, like I was misportraying them. No, get this. They actually sued me for breach of a fiduciary duty. These operatives working in and around the DNC argued to a judge that I have a fiduciary, my undercover person, had a duty, an obligation, a duty of care to the news subjects they were reporting on. Now, if that sounds ridiculous, well, yeah, we're going to talk about this. They also sued me for the breach of fiduciary duty and wiretapping, even though D.C. is a one-party consent state to record, and they sued me for something called misrepresentation. Misrepresentation, which is interesting because all investigative reporters have to misrepresent themselves to a degree to get the truth, because in order to get to the truth to the people, we have to dig deep, because if we just take what people tell us at face value, they'll often lie to us, and then we give those lies to the news consumer. This is not new. You all read about Upton Sinclair, right? In high school, he misrepresented himself when he went to the jungle. Last time people did this sort of thing was ABC News. As I was driving here through North Carolina, I noticed you guys in Virginia have Food Lion grocery stores. There was a famous undercover investigation there where news reporters went in there to record what was happening. Or you had Seymour Hersh, regardless of your politics, he misrepresented himself. Or Mike Wallace, you all remember him, tick, 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 the 60 Minutes guy. I don't know why they don't do that anymore. The only time I ever see actual investigative reporting is into people like you, private citizens. Or in toy stores, what would you do? So clearly this is an investigative journalism that used to happen. So I say, by the way, we don't settle lawsuits at Project Veritas. We go all the way. So we go to court. And if you haven't been to a federal jury trial, I've been through 2 of these federal jury trials in 3 years. Journalists should not be forced to endure these sorts of things, but this is where we are in a country. And first of all, throughout the proceeding, which there's going to be a movie made about this, but I'm going to talk about it for 2 minutes. The legal theory was, well, you misrepresented yourself. So the question was the damage, because Bob Creamer lost his job, as did the people in the video. I didn't tell them to lose their jobs. People were disgusted by what they saw, and the DNC terminated their relationship with him. So the question in court was that quote-unquote damage, was that due to the words that came out of their mouths? Yes. They didn't say, stop with this illegal stuff. Don't talk to me anymore. They continued to give it. Or Was it due to the undercover techniques themselves? Of course it wasn't due to the undercover techniques themselves or the misrepresentation itself. It was due to the words that came out of their mouth. So we get to the verdict phase, right? This happened Thursday of this week, 2 days ago. I came directly from DC, spent a week in the swamp in the sensory deprivation chamber. There's a federal courtroom. I don't recommend it. It was actually more than a week. It was about 10 days. And there were the jurors. Cameras are not allowed in federal courtrooms. I wish they were. And the clerk comes out, the judge's clerk, and the jury comes out just like you see in the movie. This is a federal lawsuit over breach of fiduciary duty and misrepresentation. And the judge says, has the jury reached a verdict? And the foreperson, that is to say, the person in the jury that is the leader of the jury, says, yes, we have, hands the note to the judge. And the judge said, well, we have a problem. He dismisses everyone out of the courtroom. He says, everyone leave except O'Keefe, the defendant, and the lawyers. We sit there and he says, we have a problem. The jury left it blank. The jury left the line blank for damages. And it says in the instruction, if you can't agree on what it is, leave it blank. That's what the instruction says. So I guess the jury deliberated for 7 hours and left it blank. Therefore, no damages, right? The judge said, oh, this is a federal judge. You could see a picture of him, I believe, in one of these slides. Maybe in the slide before. There it is. The federal judge, Article 3 judge on the bench for life, said, well, I think we need to send the jury back to keep deliberating. And my lawyer objected and said, well, but it says if you can't agree, then leave it blank. He said, I send them back. So they go back. 20 minutes later, the jurors come back, and it's blank again. Oh, well, clearly the jury can't agree. There's no damages here. Again, the words came out of the people's mouths, right? The undercover techniques caused the damages. That's an absurd theory. It was the things that the people said. I just showed you the video of what they said. The jury saw it with their own eyes. Granted, it's a Washington, D.C. jury pool, but they saw it. It came back real quick. I think it was 15 minutes, 18 minutes. Jury came back a second time. The judge looked at it and said, it's still blank. And the judge and my lawyer said, come on, judge. I mean, this is it. These are smart people on this jury. Some of them had master's degrees, actually. One of them had a PhD in physics, believe it or not. It's a rocket science jury in Washington, District of Columbia. True story. Again, you can't make this stuff up. Truth is stranger than fiction. So then for about an hour, jury leaves. This happened 2 days ago. For the next hour, the judge and my lawyer had a rigorous debate. And my lawyer's like, this is it. This is a smart jury. The instruction says if you can't agree, leave it blank. He says if you can't agree, leave the thing blank. And they left it blank a second time. And the judge looked at the other lawyer and said, well, what do you have to say? And this other lawyer, who basically sounded like and looked like Bernie Sanders, he goes, I have nothing to say, Your Honor. I don't know. That's what it says. There wasn't even an objection. And to our utter shock, that federal judge in D.C. sent that jury back in a third time. Brought the jury back out and said, well, you left it blank, so maybe you guys can go deliberate some more. And then, after some time, and now it's the evening, and we're all sitting there, the jury comes out, and they put a number down there, $120,000 in damages against Project Veritas. And that's what happened. And I couldn't believe it. But we're obviously going to appeal it. It's unconstitutional. It's wrong. It's an indictment against journalism. Whether you like me or not, it's not about politics. It's about the First Amendment. But the judge made another comment. Again, I don't have the transcripts yet, so forgive me for paraphrasing. I'm doing the best I can to remember the exact quotes, but the precise quotes will come out in a week or so when we get the transcripts from court and we hire a voiceover actor to read word for word. But the judge said something to the effect of, well, misrepresentation, yeah, would that cause the damage? Well, if the Ku Klux Klan infiltrated the organization, then it would be embarrassing. That federal judge actually, through his metaphor, compared Project Veritas to the Ku Klux Klan. My lawyer said, well, there's a difference, Your Honor. The Ku Klux Klan is a violent, racist, terrorist organization, and this is a news organization quoting people. But that is just what happened in federal court. First time Project Veritas is lost. Well, we haven't lost yet. We're appealing. We'll appeal to the D.C. Circuit Court and all the way to the United States Supreme Court if we must. But I could not believe, this is me on the right-hand side, underneath the American flag, second from the right, I could not believe that that was actually happening. Because we grow up in a country and we like to believe in the ideals of the United States, where justice is supposed to be blind, right? Where it doesn't matter what your politics are. The law should judge all men equally. Now, that doesn't mean that we're all quite literally equal physically. It means that we're equal before the law. And without the First Amendment, without the right of a person, whether you're a journalist or a citizen journalist or just a citizen doing journalism, because journalism is an activity, not an identity. It's an activity that you do. If you don't have the right to do that, to inform your fellow citizens, then you don't have any rights at all. The First Amendment is that which makes the citizenry informed so that they can make informed decisions. And why is this so important? Well, some of the other stories that we've done, I'm going to skip through some of this because I want to get through this recent story we did on education, which maybe we need to do more stories on education so that people can be better educated in this country after what I've witnessed here in court. Why is it so important to show people? Because I have determined after living through this recent thing that I've lived through, I can't believe he brought up the Ku Klux Klan. I can't believe he did that. I can't believe he sent that jury in again and again and again until the right verdict was reached. Even I continue to learn things. But why do we need to expose what's going on? Because this is what happens in schools. This is an assistant principal at a school in Greenwich, Connecticut. We just did this a few weeks ago, and he says, if you're Christian, if you're Catholic, this is the assistant principal of the high school. He says, we don't hire you if you're Catholic. We discriminate based upon religion. This is what this man says. Not a low-level person. This is Greenwich, Connecticut, assistant principal. Listen to this.
If you were raised on court, it's like the brain that changes what he says.
So if you find out someone is Catholic, then what?
You don't hire them, he says.
I think one of the questions that might start including is something about transgender.
Talks about questions to ask people, talks about the subtle indoctrination that they do in public school.
Doesn't matter what they think about it. If they think about it in a logical, progressive way, that becomes their attitude.
Like, so you kind of like gear them to think in a more liberal way.
I believe hopefully the more progressive teachers are actually more savvy about delivering a democratic message without really ever mentioning politics. We want people that are going to listen to the people. Who listens to the people? It wasn't the conservatives on the Supreme Court.
These are your teachers. These are your principals throughout the U.S. And it's so important that we expose what these people are actually doing and saying to your children. Now, as a result of the investigative reporting Project Veritas did, this man was suspended as a principal in Greenwich, Connecticut. Now, you might say, well, that's not enough, O'Keefe. What about all the other teachers? Well, yes, exactly. We need to expose all of them, one by one, and we will. Even this is in the state of Connecticut, the Democratic governor, Democratic U.S. senator, Democratic Attorney General put out statements admonishing what happened. What was really funny, by the way, is that there are some people that still believe, again, we're at the light conference, salt and light, some people believe in darkness, including the head of the Education Association in Connecticut, who said, I would not comment on this. Alert your members that Veritas and O'Keefe are lurking around. They're lurking. Keep the doors closed. And remember, it's time to double down on caution. Why not just be ethical and don't break the law? But this is not, I mean, I'm a journalist, but it's about light versus darkness and good versus evil. Whether I believe that they should talk and they want me to shut up, quit, and go away. Also, the Attorney General, this is wild. The Attorney General of Connecticut actually said after the story, quote, I think there's something really wrong with vigilante journalism. What exactly does that mean? Isn't all journalism vigilante? Aren't journalists supposed to be speaking truth to power and not just feeding you on a platter what they want you to see and hear? All journalism is speaking truth to power. Otherwise, it's propaganda. It's public relations.
William Tong.
But we had a press conference. I didn't have a press conference. Every single one of those TV stations is mainstream media. Not Fox News, not right-wing media. That's ABC, NBC, CBS News. We had every TV station in the state of Connecticut go to the school. We had hundreds of angry mama bears who were upset. Because if there's one thing that you don't do, it's mess with someone's kids. That was a picture of what it looked like outside the school. That's what it looked like. And you know what? I'm proud to say Project Veritas has dozens of investigative reporters all over the country, and we have hundreds of whistleblowers coming to us, filming everything.
And tonight the state.
Hell, even the U.S. Senate person who definitely is not a fan of mine, but even he says this country was built on religious tolerance. He must have pained him to say this, by the way. God, he must have, O'Keefe's making me put out a statement. Religious discrimination is illegal. And of course I support a full investigation. But they're not. But you know what they're going to do? They're going to send me a letter. An Attorney General of Connecticut's going to send me a letter, and it's going to be a subpoena letter into Project Veritas. They want to see all my hard drives and reporters' notebooks, but I have a First Amendment right not to give that to them because I have sources that I must protect. And if they make me give those sources up to, I will say I will not do that. I will not do that. So much of this fight is a fight of the will. It's a fight of the mind. You all, many of you say, well, why aren't they doing anything? Because inside every one of us is a temptation to give up. It is a temptation to bend over and to say, I can't take the pain, I can't take the abuse of the system, which when it cannot persuade, it propagandizes, it uses tyranny. When I have the full weight and force of the federal government, the state governments, hell, even the courts are trying to abuse us for doing our jobs. But I can assure you that I will never give up. Because while they have all this power, and at least in a certain way, there's more of us that believe in these principles than there are of them. And I encourage you, when you feel despair or when you feel hopeless, just remember that Project Veritas has people everywhere. And if they're lying or cheating or stealing or abusing your taxpayer dollars, they just might be the next internet celebrity. And over the next if they make me disclose the source, I have a constitutional right a natural right not to disclose my reporter notebooks, and I will tell your honor that he is in error. And I will be held in contempt of court and go to jail to protect my source, because this country was founded on the First Amendment, and we are going to expose all of them, and within a few years' time, you're going to see this digital army, these whistleblowers grow and grow and grow, and the courage will be contagious. And you can send us a tip at veritastips@protonmail.com. That's our tip line. A little plug. And if you're lying, cheating, or stealing, we will make you famous. Stay tuned.